So, you probably saw the title of this video, so you most likely know what this is going to be about, but just in case. What I'm going to be talking about is the idea of atheism, or that the belief that there is no God, versus the idea that there is a God. And I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to be taking both ideas against each other from a point of view that is purely logical and or philosophical, correct? I'm not going to be getting into the Bible or any other religion. I will mention some, sure, but I will not truly dwell into them, because this is for somebody who used to be an agnostic like me, or is an agnostic, sorry. So now, to further continue, I will make clear a few things. As I already stated, I used to be agnostic, correct? Meaning that I did not believe that there was a God, but I was not sure. What does that mean? That means that if you show me enough proof that there was a God, and that your religion worshipped the one and true God, regardless if it's 1, 2, or 3, or whatever, how many there are, then I will become a believer. And the reason for this willingness to believe was because, as an agnostic, I understood the implications of what it means to live on a universe without a God. And partially the reason that I'm making this video is because I believe that that a lot of agnostics do not truly understand what it means that there is no God, if there is truly not, which there is. And thank God for that. And thanks to the Almighty for that. But either way, so okay, first a little bit of context about me. I was raised Catholic. I became disillusioned, not with Christianity or Catholicism, just with religion in general, when I was around 13 to 14 years old. And then eventually I became a Christian when I was 19 to 20 years old. So that's a 5-year gap, in which, if you ask me if I believed on God, honestly, I will just make you a lot of questions, but a lot of questions that target your faith, right? I will not really be open to listening. Well, I was, but I will ask questions on a mocking manner, so to say. Now, that eventually changed when I understood, while I grew up more and more, from 13 to around 16 to 17, what I understood what the implications of there not being a God on the universe. And what are those implications? Well, if there is no God, that means that we live on a purely materialistic universe. And the meaning of that is that we live on a universe entirely made or entirely governed by physics and chemistry, which are just physics applied. But the point is, if there is no God, that means that we live on a universe completely under the control of physics completely. There is nothing outside of it which could be considered spiritual. And that is important for a very simple reason. If we live on a purely physical universe, that means that there is no soul for us. That means that when we die, we die. Everything just goes black. There is no laughter, there is no sadness, there is no nothing. Everything just goes black. Correct? So, and I think that's a lot of things, something that a lot of agnostic don't acknowledge, or I think they don't do to the extent that they should. Because that means that it doesn't matter how many injustice there is in the world. It doesn't matter if the life of somebody was taken. It doesn't matter if their life tragically ended on a car accident. It doesn't matter if their life ended at a hospital. It doesn't matter if they were bullied. It doesn't matter anything, because at the end of the day, when you die, everything just goes black. And what does that mean? That means that that's a very dark universe to live on, because that means that it doesn't matter if you are a good person or a bad person. If we are merely governed by physics, that means that it doesn't matter how much you love somebody, it doesn't matter how much you hate somebody. At the end of the day, we are coming back to dust, and that's going to be it. Correct? So the problem, so I want, if you love anybody, if you love your father, your mother, even a friend who helps you out sometimes, if you love anybody, I want you to consider this. Then, if you truly believe that there is no God, you are going to die and there is nothing after that. And if you are okay with that, that's okay. I mean, I used to believe that too for a couple of years. I did not become a Christian because I wanted reassurance that, okay, I want to believe on something just in case that there is something. I did not become a Christian because of that. If there was truly nothing after that, I was okay with that, because I was not willing to spend time of my life worshiping a God that I do not believe on fully. Because what's the point of that? You might as well, I don't know, do a sport on the meantime, or study, or do something else that develops you if you want to keep living or whatever. Now, why do I? Okay, so if from a heart point of view you are okay with there not being a God, let me appeal to you more on the philosophical reasons or the implications of there not being a God furthermore. If there is no God and we are purely controlled by physics, that means that we are not clumps of cells walking around. That means that we are clumps of atoms walking around. We are chemical reactions just happening inside of a layer of atoms or skin. A easier term if you ask me. Either way. So the point is that if there is nothing, if nobody has a soul that supersedes the body, that is outside of the body and is eternal, correct? That means that when you live, when you are living your life, that means that everything that you experience, everything in your brain is just a chemical reaction. And that's scary for a very simple reason. That means that if we had enough computing power and we knew everything about the universe, and we knew the initial parameters of the universe, we would be able to fully simulate everything within the known universe, even your future reactions. Because what does that mean? If there is no God, that means that there is no soul. Or at the very least, if you don't believe that there is soul or anything. If you believe that there is no soul, that means that theoretically speaking, if we had the computing power and the other things that I already said, that means that we will be able to simulate you and know what type of life you are going to live until the day that you die. Correct? That means that it doesn't matter how much you think that you think, you do not have free will if there is no God. For this very simple reason that we are chemical reactions that are bounded by just the laws of physics. Sure, random interactions with other people might change the way that you think, but at the end of the day, if we had enough computing power, we could be able to simulate them too, meaning that randomness inside of your brain disappears, meaning that you do not have free will if there is no God. So when people try to come at Christianity or any other religion for that matter, is that, okay, if there is your God, if your God exists, then where does free will exist? What they don't realize is that if there is truly no God and we live on a purely materialistic universe, none of us, nor you or me, have free will. If you are disturbed by that notion, congratulations. That's good. Because me too, I was. And honestly, I will tell you, I did not believe on God yet when I came to this realization, but it's a very dark realization to make, because that means that it doesn't matter what I think, it doesn't matter what I think, it doesn't matter what I feel, it doesn't matter what I experience, it is not real. Everything that I am thinking that I'm thinking is real, it is not. It's just chemical reactions happening inside of my brain, which a really powerful computer could predict, right? So why is this important? Well, that's important from the point of view of like the agnostics that laugh at the people who believe on God, because when I came to this realization, I became angry to the people who mock those who believe on God, because I'm like, do you understand the implications that there is no God? If there is no God, as I just explained previously, we do not have free will. And not only we do not have free will, when everything ends, when our lives ends, there is nothing. Meaning that we will never get to meet those who loved us and who we loved. There is no justice for the people who had horrific ends. There is no justice at all. And not only this, but the horrific things that happen on the world because of human beings. If there is no God, we are entirely responsible for that. So it's even darker than that, because then you realize that then we live in a world with no justice, no freedom of thought, and no real love, nothing really, no real relationships. We just walk around and we exist. We believe that we exist, but we don't. That's why simulation theory is honestly one of the things that it's really popular within agnostics or atheists, I would say, because the people that believe that acknowledge the absurdity of the universe and the implications that there is no God. So now, if you are an agnostic and you have ever mocked somebody who believes on God, well, if you still believe that there is no God, which I haven't given you any proof that he exists, what I want you to consider is the following. If there is no God, then those people who believe on God are not able to cope with the fact that he doesn't exist. They are not able to cope with the fact that all the things that I said previously happen. There is no justice, no love, and we do not have free will at all. Correct? So, and honestly, that's a pretty dark universe to be living on. And I mean, if you don't want to believe on God, go ahead. I will make another video explaining why I believe that Christianity and Jesus is the one and true God. But the reason why I will say this is that if you're an agnostic and you want to continue being agnostic forever, I just want you to keep in mind that. So do not mock those who believe on God for the load, for the weight of the universe not having a God is very heavy, and not many people can carry it. Now, that said, I'm not saying this. I'm not saying that I became a Christian because that load was too heavy for me. I mean, it was really, really heavy, but I was not willing to let go of that load unless I was given enough proof that God existed. Because again, I became angry at religion, so to say. I saw religion most as a way of controlling people, you know. I saw the evil of people growing up, so I was like, and the good, don't get me wrong, but I saw how nasty people can get, so I was like, you know what, I do not, I will respect religion because there is a lot of crazy people out there. If there is no God, then all of those people are just crazy, and the reason people make religion is so that we don't end up ending each other out, because that's what I see, that's what I saw in history, that's what I saw with my own eyes, that's the point. But either way, I will make another video explaining why I think that Christianity is the truth, although I will probably go into why I think the Bible is a reliable document. So if you still don't believe in God, don't worry about it. I will get into that because, as I told you, it was not an easy process for me to become a Christian. But the load that I had was partially the reason why.